I saw your post, and I got a story that I've never actually been able to share on a platform like this, and it doesn't really fit into any theme, as far as the paranormal goes. I mean, it's not really anything to do with ghosts or Bigfoot or anything, but just a really strange experience that me and a friend had while hiking through the woods up in Washington State, where I grew up. So I know you guys are quite familiar with that area. So we get to the service road, and I haven't been back there since. This was back in 2007, and me and this buddy, we get out there, we park, and there was a few other cars that, people that were walking their dogs, and just it's kind of like a nature trail, but an actual service road. But the gate was closed, so you had to walk around. So we went back, I'd say probably 2 miles, just straight back. The road just kind of goes forever. It's alongside a power line. And I'm pretty familiar with, I was at the time pretty familiar with that area, just with the layout and everything, because we used to camp out there and whatnot. And it was getting kind of late. It's probably about 5 o'clock, overcast. And we're walking along, and we see a road that connects, and it goes to our right. And we get to this cutoff, and we're like, oh, let's check this road out. So we start walking, I'd say not even 30 seconds. We start walking down this road, and we both heard what sounded like a very large waterfall, but it sounded like it was down, like kind of like in a ravine or a canyon of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounded massive, though. I remember telling my buddy, I was like, that's really weird, because there's not really I don't think there's any major river that runs right through here. That sounds like it's like really far down. That doesn't make any sense. And he's like, you want to go check it out? And I was like, yeah, it sounded like maybe it was half a mile away, And so we continue going down this cutoff road, and I'd say after about 20 seconds, I just had a feeling that said, turn around and go back, leave, and I just got the creeps. So I told my buddy, I said, hey, trying to kind of play tough. I didn't tell him how I was feeling. I just said, hey, it's getting kind of late. Maybe we should head back to the car. We don't have any flashlights or anything. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And as soon as we turned around, it was the weirdest thing. As soon as we turned around and began to walk back, we both felt this, like, the best way I can describe it, we both felt and heard. It sounded like a helicopter, but it wasn't above us. It was all around us, and it vibrated like I can't even explain it. It just vibrated to the point where we both stopped, and it like did like a like all around us. It circled us, and then it stopped. It was quiet, and we both stopped, looked at each other, and he was like, "What the hell is that?" I was like, "I don't know." That and we just were quiet for a while, and we started like power walking back to the car, and we're like, after about 5 minutes, we started to talk, and he was like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. The weird thing to me was it didn't sound like something big running, because like there was no brush movement, and it was like, I'd say it was maybe not even 2 seconds long. It just went encircled us really quick, and it sounded kind of like a helicopter, and it vibrated. And so I can't put a finger on what it was. And we actually talked about this not too long ago, and we were like, man, what, like, you remember how weird that was? Like, what do you think that was? And I got a gut feeling like we pissed something off. I got a feeling that something was trying to lure us that way. And then when we decided to turn around, it just got pissed. I don't know. And I've been following Dave Paulides' work, Missing 411, which is fascinating. And at the time, I had I'd never heard of it, obviously, but after learning about those cases and then thinking about this event, it just gives me the chills, So yeah, I can't really put my finger on it, but it was definitely a weird, creepy story, something we experienced that we can't explain,
Yeah, so Ray, do you feel like that was something akin to infrasound from what you experienced?
Possibly. From what I've heard about infrasound, is it's like, I've never heard anyone describe it where it was all enclosing like that, where
Right.
it like just warps around you. So it's usually like one direction, and then you're paralyzed, if I remember correctly. So I mean, it could have been. I don't know. I heard a similar story about a guy that was I think he was mountain biking with a group of buddies. I don't know where I heard this. It might have been on I think it was Sasquatch Chronicles.
I think I know what story you're about to say. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly. The guy like was doing a mountain biking guide, and he heard water in a place that there shouldn't have been water, and so he like started to take his clothes off because he was hot, and then his buddies showed up, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And he snapped out of it, and I've wanted to go back there to like see, okay, is there a river around here? Is there a waterfall? Because it just doesn't make any sense. Like if you go out there, that whole area is just pretty much just dense forest, and then there's not really. I don't believe there's a river going through there or any kind of waterfall, but it sounded massive. Massive enough to intrigue us to want to go check it out, and it was weird. I remember talking to a friend who had claimed to be clairvoyant, and I asked her about this specific event, and I don't really believe in that stuff one way or the other. I'm open to it, but this lady was telling me that she had the feeling that it was something trying to get us to give it, whatever you want to call it, trying to get us to give it permission to take us, and you're me, and I got a feeling that's kind of accurate. Like something just felt wrong, as soon as we went down that path, and heard that, we heard that water and started going down, and just something was like, nope, go back, and then we turned, and then just it was instant, and so I don't know. It could have been infrasound.
Yeah, and if you remember from that story, and by the way, that man contacted me on the onset, and we were talking way back in the day when I was still on Sasquatch Chronicles, and I said, well, would you want to share this? And he in fact did, and I'm trying to get him to come on into the fray to retell that incredible story. It just hasn't worked out schedule-wise with him yet, but I will be getting him on. But if there was any other story that was more fitted to maybe what is going on in the Missing 411 books, I mean, David Paulides doesn't like putting a stamp on it, and, neither do I. But for now, if we're going to assume that that's what was going on,
right.
Did you guys have any sense, and this man in the story I was just referencing, he had the sense of, and he was like a hardcore mountain biker, and he said he never, I think it was dabbing, and dabbing is where he puts his foot on the ground. He's like, I never dab. I ride hardcore, and I go the whole way down the mountain until I stop. Well, he heard water, like you said. He heard a growl or something, and then he heard water, and all he thought of was, I am going to go in that water, I'm going to take all my clothes off, and I'm going to go for a swim in that amazing, beautiful water that I hear over there. So did you guys have any sense of, besides the foreboding that you had the feeling of, was there a moment of, oh my God, we have to get over there right now?
No, nothing euphoric like that. No, and I remember that. That kind of jogs my memory. I remember him mentioning that, but nothing hypnotic or good or nothing like that. We just had a curiosity, like almost like a mystical, why is that there?
Did you ever feel sleepy or like really relaxed, like you wanted to sit down?
No, it was just this, not at all. Nothing really physical, just kind of a, why does that sound like, Niagara Falls down there?
When you knew there was no such thing there.
Well, not for sure, because like I said, I've never been down that far, and I've never been down that particular cutoff, and we were a good ways back, but it's just, for that area, it's very flat, and there's some homes, and I know there's homes in that area, not far from there, but, I mean, this waterfall sounded huge, and it could have been, it could have been just the way it was, where it was located. If it was in the ravine, maybe the sound was being amplified through that, or, and I had never been down there, so I couldn't say for sure. And I've been tempted to go back, because I could find the exact spot if I wanted to. I just, haven't had the guts to do it. But yeah, nothing euphoric or creepy as far as feeling, or sleepy, nothing like that. It was just so quick. As soon as we started walking, I had like I said, the feeling of, like my spidey sense kind of went up, something's wrong. That was probably the most intense feeling that I had. As far as my buddy goes, I couldn't say. We haven't talked about it for, a while, but just in small talk, we've mentioned it, but yeah, it was weird.
It is a strange tie-in with being like, oh, what is that water sound? And then there's a feeling of we have to go, and then the quote-unquote helicopter sound, which was, you said it was kind of surrounding you. Oh, when you have, you're in a car and one person will crack their window, and it's kind of like that, wop, 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 and it's like, it's so overwhelming sometimes. Some people seem to be more sensitive to that than others, but like for me, I'm like, either someone needs to crack another window or we need to roll that up. It's too much. Was it kind of that? I don't know if that's a bad analogy, but
yeah, kind of. It was that's a good example. It was more like, if I could, as I'm thinking about it, like a washing machine, like when it tumbles. It kind of sounded like that, but just a lot more exaggerated, like, and faster.
Right.
Like, and it sounded like, because he was my buddy. As soon as we turned around, my buddy was to my left, and we're walking up the road, going back. And as soon as we turned, I remember it came from like our left, so directly across from us on our left, in the woods is where it started, but it went around us. It went behind him, over to me on my right, and then in front of us, and then it was done. It was so fast, but I remember it sounded like it just, and I was trying to like explain it away in my mind, like, well, we are by power lines. Maybe that was some sort of anomaly with the power lines. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't really put, anything on that, but we couldn't think of anything. We're like, well, it was all around. It was definitely around us. It was not up in the air. It was, we both were looking behind us and to our left and right, and then we looked at each other and we're like, what the heck was that?
Was there any actual change to the air, like, or any of the leaves moving, or did dust get kicked up or anything like that?
No, and again, that was one of the weirdest things to me. Was this road was pretty loose gravel, and then directly to the sides is just really dense forest. And when this vibration, and by the way, we did feel like, well, at least me in my chest, I felt this very big this strong vibration for those 2 seconds when it circled us. So and he verified that to me. He's like, yeah, I felt something vibrating too. That was kind of like something heavy running. I remember is what my buddy said, and I was like, yes, but nothing, like, I didn't hear any brush, and the woods are really thick to our left and right, but like it didn't. It sounded like it was in the air, but it was like at our shoulder level. You know what I mean? It didn't sound like it was up above.
What in the world was that?
Yeah, it was bizarre. It's definitely bizarre.
But you haven't really talked with your friend, you said, in quite a while about this.
Yeah, well, we'd mentioned it a couple summers ago when I was actually telling him about Missing 411 and how I'm really getting into the books and telling him my theories, and he was just kind of hearing me out. And then I remember telling him like, man, you remember that one experience we had in the woods? And he instantly was like, yeah, that was weird. That was really weird. And we just kind of brought it up then. And I remember telling him, like, thank goodness I hadn't heard of this Missing 411 thing back then, because it would have just terrified me even more, But
yeah, So I was just talking to Lon yesterday, and I just released that auxiliary, and I mentioned just for a second because he brought up the missing 411. And I'm like, it just seems like there's something with the water. And I don't know if you remember when I talked to Clint Granberry of OK Talk.
Yeah, right.
He mentioned when he was in Tahoe years ago. Remember, he was like walking down on this trail by himself, and then he saw I think it was a blue light. Don't quote me on that, but it was a light in the water. So he got drawn down to the water. He just wanted to go to the water. He had to get there. And then he sat down by a tree, and then he felt kind of sleepy, but then he fought it off, and he's like, no, I have to get out of here right now. And he left the woods at that time and went back to the camp that he was at. But that all just, it's all tied in somehow. It's just we can't put our finger on what it is.
Yeah, I remember. Are you familiar with Dr. Matthew Johnson and his work? I guess he's located in Washington, but he does the. I don't follow his work. I'll hear anybody out. People have their opinions about him. I definitely have my own. But I actually went to one was this about a year ago? About a year and a half ago, I went to a meeting that he held up in the Puyallup area, and that's kind of when I stopped going. That was kind of my first and last meeting with him. But I remember after the meeting, I ran into a lady that we kind of just started talking, between us, and I remember she had mentioned a trail. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but somewhere out in the foothills of Mount Rainier, and she was saying how this trail, according to native legend, it has been cursed, and people go missing there all the time. And I was like, well, I've never heard of that. Is that past Elby? And she's like, well, yeah, it's a little ways past Elby, or Ashford, excuse me. And people that go out there near the trailhead, they'll hear screaming. They'll hear crying and screaming and things of that nature. And it just gave me there's all kinds of, I know David Flightus covers, the Mount Rainier area with missing persons, and it's scary. I won't go in the woods anymore. I used to go hiking all the time by myself, but not anymore. For sure, not anymore.
There's some weird stuff, and I don't know if we can just simply say, well, it's just portals sucking people up into God knows where.
Yeah, I definitely, just from my own personal convictions, I believe it's definitely something demonic that's going on with people being taken, or I got a feeling with my specific situation, it felt evil. It just felt wrong. I can't. It's kind of going on a stretch there to just say that, but it just felt weird. We weren't supposed to be there, and something was trying to kind of coerce us to go down to that water.
What do you think would have happened? It's total conjecture, but I just wonder what would have happened if you would have kept going.
I think something would have appeared. My gut feeling says something would have appeared, whether it be a light or an orb or some sort of entity that would have tried to get us, like my friend said, tried to give it permission somehow to be taken or to be possessed. I would say. Once
you get to a certain point, it's kind of the point of no return.
Yeah, well, my personal conviction is that you gotta give this thing a clear invitation to take control. I don't believe these things have any power over us, and for the power that we give it. I think we have to give that control over to them. But I don't know. I've always kind of been envious. Not envious isn't the right word, but just kind of wow, that happened to you? Friends will tell me about stories where they, saw a ghost, or they, something demonic. And I've just never had that, as far as, anything ghostly, or I've never had something like that. The only thing that I can recall, and this is actually something else that I could share. I remember I was in high school, and we had just went down, me and a few girls, all went down to the movie theater. We saw Napoleon Dynamite, and then we came back home. And I remember going up this road called the Snake Hill. It goes up from Auburn up to like Edgewood. You know, I don't know if you know where that's at, but
I know Auburn quite well. Yeah.
Yeah, we went to the Auburn Super Mall Theater, and then we came back, and that was kind of a shortcut to get home. And it was like 1:30 in the morning, and I don't call this a ghost story because I don't know for sure, but the circumstances are just weird looking back, and, you know, and as we talked about it. But I'll never forget it. We start taking this road going up, and it goes up a really windy hill, and it's very dangerous. Like, there's no lights. It's very steep. It kind of like it's just switchbacks all the way up this hill, and it's nothing but woods. And when I was a kid, when we would go through this road, my older brothers would always try to scare me, and they would say, "Hey, you know that there was a boy that was murdered on this road, and his dad put a sign on the trees, like he would nail signs to the trees saying, you know, my son was murdered here. If you have any information, please contact me," and blah, blah, blah. And it would scare me because it was such a creepy road.
Right.
And so I remember as we're coming home from the movie, you know, I'm in high school, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna scare these girls. I start telling these girls that story. And like I said, you can't walk on this road. Like, growing up, you know, my whole entire childhood, I never saw anybody walk on that road, and there's no sidewalk, and it's just very dangerous. And so we start taking the road, and I start telling them that story. And I was like, "Hey guys, you know there was a guy that was murdered on this road, like way back in the day." And they're like, "Oh, shut up!" And I'm like, "No." And I kid you not, as soon as we take a corner, we all scream. We all just lost it. We scream because we see this, and it looked 100% physical. It didn't look ghostly. It wasn't transparent. We saw this young man dressed in all white. He had like white slacks, kind of like he was wearing like painter pants, you know, like that painter would wear. And then he had a white T-shirt tucked in, and then he had like a leather jacket, a black hood over his shoulder, and he had like slicked back hair, and he almost looked like if I was to put like an ethnicity to it, he looked like almost like Russian, like very strong features. And he was just walking on our left. We all screamed, and we saw him, and then as we passed him, we all started to like laugh out of relief, like, "Oh, it was just a guy." Like, "Oh man, we thought that was a ghost," you know. And then as we continue up the road, I'm like, "Wait a minute, what? Like, was that a guy, or was that like a physical human, or was that a ghost?" And then we all started like questioning it, like, "Wait a minute," that's because right when I started telling that story, we see this young man appear, and I started trying to like analyze it in my mind, like, well, like it's cold, it's 2:00 in the morning. Why the hell is he walking down here? Nobody walks down here. It's dangerous. Well, maybe he took the jacket off and he was wearing all white for that very reason. Maybe he was trying to be safe, or, you know, so there's kind of like two sides to it. And so that's why I don't like calling it a ghost story for sure, but it was definitely weird. You know, the timing was really convenient for when it happened. And
would that have been around the age that when this young man passed away?
You know, I never knew the kid's age. This was just a story that my brothers would tell me. Hey, you know, someone who was murdered on this when he was riding his bike, he was murdered, and I never knew the age. I never knew the name or the specifics. But this guy probably looked like he was maybe 19, 20. Yeah, he was young. He was a young guy. But again, it was just nobody. You can't walk on that road. I mean, if you do, you're risking getting hit. You know, and that could very well, like I said, be the reason why he was wearing all white and trying to keep that jacket on his shoulder so he could be seen. You know, but
yeah, it doesn't seem like a place people would walk. It reminds me of when you take the drive up to Mount St. Helens. And it's 2 lanes, you know, one this way, one the other, and it's super windy. It reminds me of that road very much. Like, if you go off the road at all, you're falling down a pretty steep embankment. Yeah,
definitely. And with no lights, you know, and being on that that steep embankment, like you're saying. It's suicide.
Yeah.
To go down there, and so, yeah, it was bizarre. And I've driven that road thousands of times, growing up, and I've probably the last time I've moved since then. I live in Arizona now, but I think the last time I went down there, I kind of had the chill go up my spine, like, oh, am I going to see something? But never did. But it was interesting.
Yeah, it is odd timing at the very least. If that was a man, it's still a cool story because of the timing of things.
Right. Yeah, and it was like, the questions just brewed. Like, all right, is this guy glowing because he's a ghost?
Yeah.
Is he trying to be seen with his white clothes? So yeah, it was interesting.
I mean, people definitely make poor decisions as far as their own safety goes, and if they have to walk somewhere or whatever the case might be. But it's at the very least interesting timing.
Yeah, and one last thing, I never thought of it this way too, but I mean, just thinking of the road, you got to have, I guess, no fear of anything in life to walk down that road at night. It's absolutely creepy, and with no flashlight, and you're just walking, and it's just pure forest. There's, so that kind of makes you wonder even more. Like, was this something spiritual? Because I can't think of any physical, person in their right mind walking down that thing at night.
Did he actually look over at you guys as you went by?
Yeah. He was straight in front of us on the left. So he was to my left. And when you're going up, it's just a one lane. And then eventually it comes to like a fork where it becomes 2 lanes. But at that particular part, it's just a very narrow road, 1 lane. So we passed him. He was like inches from me. And that's how physical. That's how I was able to get such a detailed look at him.
No wonder you guys hollered.
Oh gosh, it scared the heck out of us. He looked like the look he was giving us was kind of, I don't want to say evil, but it was very serious looking. Like he was just kind of looking right at us, and then it was creepy.
So you could give him the same look, like, what in the H are you doing on this road right now, dude? Like, if you're a living person and you want to keep living, you shouldn't be walking here.
Yeah, right. You don't want to be a ghost story. You want to be,
yeah. Oh my
alive,
goodness.
So.
Well, Ray, if you ever head back to, Washington and get back to that area, I would love to hear about it. Heck, I'd love to go visit that spot. It sounds like a really creepy spot. And I know the area pretty well around there. Yeah, incredible story. I don't know what to make of that, but see, all these little teeny tiny pieces they have the same shape, So I'm like thinking they're all a little different in a way. It's just like a puzzle. So I'm thinking all this has to be tied in somehow. The water,
definitely.
It has a blaring flag going, it's me. You guys just can't figure it out. It's really strange.
Yeah. I would love to go back. I wouldn't go unless it was a big group of people. I would love to go back out there and just find out, just to find out if there's actually water out there,
Well, Ray, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's truly appreciated.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Hello?
Hi, I have a creepy story for you.
Hey, who's this?
My name is Greg.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
I'm good. I saw your comment on here about calling in with the creepy experience, and I thought you might be interested in one that I have.
Always interested. Yes, take it away.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can talk about this because a couple weeks ago we went over and I stopped by at the Baggins, hopefully I can name drop that, Haunted Museum there in Las Vegas.
So wait a second, so that is open?
No, it is not.
Oh, okay. All right, I was just going to say, I was like, I'm here. I've been waiting for him to open that darn thing. It seems like it's never going to open. So you went by and just kind of checked the building out.
So we went by. We weren't 100% sure it was closed. I'm from the Los Angeles area, and so we were up there for a few days. And me and a couple of my kids, we went by there, and we took a couple of pictures. And I took one of the pictures out in front. He has a tree there with a bunch of like clown dolls in it, and took a picture of that, took a couple other pictures because I was going to send it off to my oldest daughter, who's kind of a fan of their show, and then we went on back to our towards our hotel, and went out, had dinner, did all the stuff, and then later that night, around 1 a.m, I got an email alert, and it said that certain friends of mine liked the picture I posted on Facebook. And I said to myself, well, that's interesting. I didn't post anything on Facebook. Mm. So I went to see what picture was posted. And lo and behold, it was the picture of the tree with the clowns and with the clown dolls. And there was a caption on it as well. It said, you can call it. And I swear to you, I did not post that. I did not post that.
What was the caption? You can call it?
You can call it.
What in the world?
Isn't that odd? And that was at 1 a.m. Woke up the next morning when the kids were up. I said, "You guys weren't messing with me," and I showed it to them, and they were just flabbergasted. So anyway, a little street cred for Zach's museum.
Yeah,
I guess. And when I saw your note on Facebook about calling in, I thought, you know what, I'm going to call in and tell her this. She might be interested in the story. But anyway.
Greg, I mean, that is really good street cred for that, because I've been waiting for that to open. So maybe the creepy clown dolls, which I think that Zach Bagans actually hates clowns, right? So maybe the clowns just wanted to be, they wanted to be known. They wanted to be shouted out on Facebook that night.
I mean, I'll tell you what, it is. There's obviously there's going to be a lot of energy around that place.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm a big fan of the paranormal, so I was really hoping, maybe, who knows, maybe by chance, you know, maybe there was an opening, maybe there was a door cracked open or something, but. Anyway, we all have to wait, but it's apparently going to be opening pretty soon. And when it does, I will be up there to go through it.
I'll go with you in a heartbeat because I've been waiting for it. Did you know that he has Jack Kevorkian's death van in there?
Yes, he has his van.
It's incredible.
He has a number of his just his paraphernalia.
Yeah,
and that's pretty crazy. And he also has that one. Well, it's one of the Annabelle dolls.
Correct. Yes.
And that might be the craziest thing. So, I mean, pretty much everything, when you think about it, everything that he's going to have in that place has some sort of connection with something paranormal.
Yeah, I wonder, and it's got to be. You have to probably sign a release before you go onto the property.
Yeah, I bet you do, actually. And you know, I've always had I don't know. I don't know, you know, if the word, you know, I'm not going to say I'm intuitive or anything of that nature, but I've had a few. I mean, I don't know. I do tend to have a few experiences here and there. And you want another one?
Sure, you bet.
Okay. So here it is. I'm an engineer, and I was doing some work down at UCLA in Los Angeles, and we were doing some night work and rehabilitating a building there, and for office use, and it used to be a portion of the hospital, an old hospital portion there, and we were doing some night work, and interestingly, the labor workers for the contractor, they refused to work by themselves. They always insisted that they work in at least in twos, and because they were having some strange experiences, and they were all very, very wigged out. And so, you know, we go about doing our thing, doing all of our repair work, and I went upstairs a couple of floors to a break room. And because they had a little coffee maker, and it was really the only thing around at that hour of the night. So, and it made a pretty decent cup of coffee. So I went ahead and was buying and as I walked into the break room, which was kind of had an open entrance area, there was a woman sitting in the back table, and she was dressed in black. She was reading a book. And I walked in, and I just said hello, and I went over and I put in my money and pushed the button for the coffee that I liked with a little bit of cream, and I was waiting, and somebody started walking down the hall, and I looked over to see, and there was a guy that was walking through there, and I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Hey," and I also kind of kept turning back to see, and that woman was not there. And the table that she was sitting at, the chair was pressed cleanly back up against the table like all the other tables, and there was no sign of that anybody had even been there.
You think you would have heard that chair being pushed back in, or pushed out and then back in, right?
And I would have seen her walk by me. Or at least felt her walk. I would have known she walked by me.
Do you remember, thinking back now, you're like, well, she did kind of look like she was in a hospital gown or anything like that? Do you remember what she was wearing? It seemed like a black dress. And maybe even with a black jacket, and she had black hair. And was just there quietly, reading some book. And next thing I know, she was gone. So there you go. An old hospital. So, are there any guesses though? Do you think that she's all in black? Was she some sort of a mourner from way back in whatever day that might have been?
Yeah, I mean that would have to be the question. If it wasn't simply my mind playing tricks on me, it certainly wasn't somebody. It wouldn't have been somebody from, I would think from recent decades. But the school, that hospital building probably does go back.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably goes back 60 years. So I would imagine, or maybe it was a little bit more than that, probably about 60 years. So I imagine it wouldn't have been further back than that. But again, it's late at night, you're alone. Your mind can play tricks on you. But I know what I saw, and for one thing I could tell you for sure is I did not post that picture on Facebook. I
love that. So what do you make of the caption? You can call it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that interesting? I don't know. What can I call?
There's a couple different ways to take that. Yeah, you're like, well, I could call it crazy because I didn't post that.
Yeah, and it just beats me. But it just seemed, something. Somebody wanted me to know that they were there.
I love that. Zipping back to your UCLA story, so it was an old hospital, and you were rehabbing it into a different situation for a building. What is it now? What building is that?
It's a. I guess they're now using it more for just offices and classrooms and things like that for the medical centers. So.
Kind of be nice to be a fly in the wall and hear maybe the water cooler talk, and if someone else has seen the lady in black with the black hair.
Well, you never know. But I did throw it out there. I've thrown it out there now for the world to hear by calling your show.
I truly appreciate that, and as you know, you've heard me say it. I go fishing, so you're going fishing now. So let's see if anyone out in the UCLA campus will call in and go, you know what? I saw that same woman reading that book.
Yeah. Hey, what do you know? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you never know. So, you just got to throw that line out there. That's what I love about it. Hey, Greg, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we're Facebook friends, so I appreciate that.